Higher Education Minister Blade Nzimande announcing yesterday that a 3.8 billion rand loan scheme is going to be made available to students, particularly those in the category of the missing middle. Now, previously, only households with a combined income of less than 350,000 rand could apply for the NSFAS grant. Now, this has now been extended to households who are earning up to 600,000 rand. Let's get some detail now around this, and we're joined by the spokesperson at Higher Education and Training Department, Veli Mbele. Mr. Mbele, thank you very much for your time. Let's understand first the basis for this. So, from households earning up to 350,000 to now 600,000. What is the motivator for this?
Thank you, Babu Mkambi. So the announcement yesterday by the minister is one of the biggest announcements, right, as it relates to our higher education system in recent years. And the motivation for what we refer to as the comprehensive student funding model, the first phase thereof, has to do with the problem that we have been having over the years that relates to addressing what we call or is referred to as the missing middle, right? And so over time, the department has then been working with a number of stakeholders and people with expertise in the financial services sector to develop a model to address the needs of those students who, in terms of the current NSFAS criteria, do not qualify. And like you correctly said, it would be those students who fall within their household categories of 350,000 per annum to 600,000 per annum. And this is a loan scheme that is meant to address that cohort of students who, in terms of the current NSFAS, financial support system, do not qualify.
Yeah. The minister yesterday, therefore, suggesting that the department is ready to roll out phase one of this missing middle loan scheme. Where do things start?
Quite correct, right? So the minister made the point that this is phase one. So phase one, in terms of the timeline, is 2024 to 2025. And then phase two is 2025 to 2030. Right. So there is an initial 3.9 that the department has committed in terms of the initial capitalization. And insofar as the implementation is concerned, which is going to be done this year, the department has then asked NSFAS to develop the implementation plan and related to that, the guidelines that would guide the scheme. NSFAS has been chosen for a number of reasons. One being it is legally mandated to manage a student loan scheme on behalf of the country, but also because in terms of the current and existing loan and bursary schemes, many of them are dispersed, and the idea was to make sure that over time you have all of them housed under one vehicle, right? So as things stand now, the first phase will be implemented this year, which is 2024, and NSFAS will be the implementing agency, and they would make at the appropriate time announcements that relate to the detail of the implementation plan. So that's really where we are as to insofar as implementing phase one is concerned.
Now, this scheme is going to be applicable to both undergraduates and postgraduate students. So let's understand what will be required from their side. But I also thought perhaps the minister was trying to communicate something here which he may not necessarily intended. When he spoke about postgraduates, he seemed to be placing emphasis there. Is this for the very first time that the NSFAS scheme will also consider postgraduate students for funding?
Yes, so that observation is not too far off, because remember, the emphasis on postgraduate funding also has to do with the objectives that relate to the development of high-end skills and scarce skills in the country. And for a while, we have also noticed that we have a set of unique challenges when it comes to funding postgraduate students. And the thinking was that then with the new funding model, right, it should not be limited to undergraduate students, because studies after study have shown that there are equally a number of challenges with regards to what you call postgraduate students. Now, in terms of the criteria, so the criteria includes a number of things. So one of them being, so the student can apply whether during their first, second, or third year of study for this loan. And if a student obtains a 60% average pass, right, which is what they need in order for them to qualify for further funding. And if they exceed the 60%, which means if they obtain 70 and above, they then get a 50% discount off, right? But what also further happens is that the focus of the funding model is that it's going to be 70% focused on what we call STEM disciplines, that's science, engineering, mathematics, right. And then about 30% on the humanities. And there's going to be a discussion as well around the flexibility to cater for entrepreneurial studies, but also for scarce skills. So that's really going to be the focus. And further than that, it is also going to be very important to realize that it's going to cover tuition, study material, and accommodation, right? And we continue to urge that the students must take advantage of this facility. And it is work in progress. We are also anticipating that there's going to be a couple of workshops to refine the process, right? Yeah. But we are going to be starting to implement it.
With this loan scheme, Mr. Mbele, the understanding is that it is a loan and therefore payable upon completion of these studies. Does the element of it being converted into a bursary apply? Is that still something that the department is driving, or this specific one is a loan and upon completing your studies, you pay back?
Yes. So the thinking here is that this is a loan scheme, and it is more meant as an instrument of socio-economic relief for those students who find themselves in the category that we describe as the missing middle. And we also imagine that at the level of discussing the detail, because in terms of the current NSFAS guidelines, there is a conversion to a bursary scheme. There will be a discussion on how you are going to reconcile the new funding model with the existing funding scheme that NSFAS has. And that detail is something that we are going to be guided on by NSFAS, because we also had to consider a number of factors when Ababu Mkambi, one of them being the viability and the capacity of NSFAS itself, but also the capacity of our academic institutions and the whole system to be able to roll out and sustain this model. And this is why in some of the areas there's not absolute commitment in terms of how it's going to be operationalized, because we also did not want to cast it in stone when it comes to some of the other aspects. And remember, this is something new and unprecedented. So it would be wise to implement it with a lot of caution and make sure that you don't disrupt the current student funding regime.
All right. And perhaps if I could borrow that word caution from you, there was emphasis again, if I heard the minister correctly, that students, therefore, who still want to qualify for this loan agreement or loan scheme, they will have to obtain a certain percentage in terms of the marks that they get in order for them to qualify the following year. Did I hear correctly?
That's correct, yeah. For you to continue on the scheme, and remember, you're going to sign the agreement on a year-to-year basis, right? And like any of the funding schemes, your qualification for the following year would be dependent on your academic performance in the previous year. So it's usually not done without consideration of your academic qualifications, because in the end, it is meant to encourage students to perform at their best academically, right? So this is really to create that type of environment for them. So the academic performance is a critical aspect of the new funding model.
Yeah. Final question to you, sir, before I let you go. As you have told us right at the beginning, that NSFAS is the vehicle through which this loan scheme is going to be disbursed. Is there worry about the proper functioning of this agency, or should we say institution, given the leadership challenges? Is the minister worried about this loan scheme hitting the ground without, or should we say with minimal glitches?
Yes, so that concern is legitimate, right, from the perspective of the public and the issues that have been reported on as it relates to what is happening at the National Students Financial Aid Scheme. So no discussion there. That is a legitimate concern. And to assure you and the public, so this process, has been running for over a year, and the minister consulted a number of people with the know-how. And we had about 18 recommendations and about 3 models that were proposed. And the minister was then advised, based on that extensive research and investigative work that has been done. But also an assessment has also been made to assess the existing capacity at NSFAS. And we came to the conclusion that NSFAS does have the capacity, but also we have also committed an additional amount to the IT systems at NSFAS to make sure that as they are charged with implementing this new student funding model, their current capacity is enhanced. And like the minister said also, Babu Mkambi, in the press briefing, right, one of the things that is uppermost in his mind is to make sure that we don't gamble with the future of many of our young people, the majority of whom are black, and require this type of assistance. And in that spirit and with that understanding, the minister came to the conclusion that all other things notwithstanding, NSFAS is in a position to help us deliver on this loan scheme as a department.
Veli Mbele, thank you very much for your time. Spokesperson at the Department of Higher Education and Training. I did try to be as simple in my line of questioning as is possible so that you, the viewer, have a clear understanding of what is expected. I hope that conversation was of help to you.